So what is true knowledge? True knowledge is the knowledge of that object which never undergoes any metamorphosis due to changes in time, space and person. Everything in the world is causal, that is, the effect is followed by the cause, and the cause by the effect. It goes on like this. The effect of one phase becomes the cause of the next. This is known as Sadrisha Parinama in Tantra. As long as we are under temporal, spatial and personal factors, the cause and effect factors will work. Where the cause and effect factor works, there only imperfection exists. One cannot be proud of the knowledge springing out of that source. It is said in the Vedas, I don't speak about what I don't know, nor do I speak about what I do know, because the transcendental entity is known only by the person who knows that Paramatman is beyond knowing and not knowing. This is because knowing is a particular psychic projection, coming within the scope of time, space and person, and not knowing is another psychic projection, coming within the scope of time, space and person. The supreme entity is beyond time, space and person, it being non-changing. If a person makes an effort to acquire spiritual psychic knowledge instead of physical psychic, in order that the source of his or her knowledge be not the external physicality, but rather internal spirituality, in that case, that knowledge will be a perfect one. What happens in the case of spiritual psychic knowledge is that though its source is absolute, its subject is relative, as the mind works within the scope of relativity. The source of spiritual psychic knowledge is absolute, the only absolute. When humans start acquiring knowledge, they should not endeavor for physical psychic knowledge. On the contrary, they should endeavor for spiritual psychic knowledge. In spiritual psychic knowledge, in the first phase there is more of psychic than spiritual, but later on, when mental concentration is gained in and there is advancement in sadhana, the spiritual increases and the psychic decreases, and when gradually the proximity to spirituality increases, the psychic is completely eliminated, and only the spiritual exists. The final terminating point of this spiritual psychic knowledge is spiritual knowledge, and that alone is knowledge. That is the real knowledge which does not change. All physical, psychic, and psychophysical knowledge is not knowledge, but the confusion of knowledge. When humans realize that the so-called knowledge is of no value to them, then alone do they surrender to Paramapurusha, cosmic cognition. As long as people have the desire to acquire all relative knowledge and try to do so, those people think themselves to be persons of letters and refuse to surrender at the feet of cosmic cognition. When people's vanity becomes powdered down by different blows, they realize that their approach to knowledge was a defective one. Then they surrender, and their egos are dashed to pieces. The greatest knowledge is in the realm of physicality and mentality is that all the knowledge acquired by one so far is false. This physical knowledge is like the leaf of a shala tree, a tall evergreen with large leaves, on which people take meals. As long as you have not eaten, there is a value in the leaf. But the moment you have finished your meal, the leaf goes into the dustbin to be licked by the street dogs. When you come to realize that this physical knowledge of yours is only worth licking by a dog, then devotion will arise in you. Then you will acquire true knowledge. What is the nature of the psychospiritual approach, through which one acquires spiritual psychic knowledge. When the physical mind reaches the zenith of subtlety, that is known as physico-psychic knowledge. There the value of physico-psychic knowledge starts. When one is established in psychic knowledge, then there is the expression of the psychophysical in it. Likewise, when psychic knowledge reaches the zenith of subtlety, it comes in contact with spirituality, at the point where spiritual knowledge or spiritual psychic knowledge functions in the mental scope is alone said to be spiritual psychic knowledge. As matter is made to be the end of life in acquiring physical knowledge, fit to be thrown into the dustbin, so for acquiring spiritual knowledge, Paramatma should be made the end. Then alone will people get real knowledge. How is it possible to make Paramatman the end of your life? Paramatman is the subject for the whole of the cosmos, and the latter is his object. He is the supreme subjectivity. You are his object. It is not possible to make him your object. As you are his object, then what to do? You have to take the ideation that he is always witnessing you. The wise do not take Paramatman as their object exactly, but rather think that they are being witnessed by him. Paramatman is not my object, I am the object of Paramatman. When this feeling is constantly there, always there in a person, the name of this stage is Dhruva Smriti, that you are the object of Paramatman is known to you, but you do not remember this all the time. When through sadhana a person never forgets that Paramatman is always witnessing him or her. This is named Dhruva Smriti. This alone is spiritual knowledge. In this stage alone does a person get true knowledge. This spiritual knowledge can be translated into the mental sphere as well as into the physical sphere. If a person is willing to translate it, he or she should do so, for that will bring a lot of good to the world. This alone is real knowledge. With this alone progress is possible. The most learned person is one who understands that he or she is not at all learned. You are spiritual aspirants. You must always remember that physico-psychic knowledge is needed only in the physical world. But when spiritual knowledge is acquired in the individual life, then it is no longer required. This very spiritual knowledge is alone devotion. That this knowledge finally transforms itself into devotion of the constant efforts. That is, when knowledge realizes that nothing is to be affected by it, then alone does it surrender to devotion. When knowledge surrenders to devotion, that is spiritual knowledge. Hence remember that once you have got devotion, you have got everything. If Paramatman asked you your demand, you should demand nothing, and if at all God is pleased to give you something, you should ask for Parabhakti, absolute devotion. 20th November 1966, DMC Patna.